Oh man, it's
It's
really funny.
you
You
know,
know, you think about all the people you've come in contact with, all the people you've dealt with, and where they are, and how they treat people, and how you value things. And I mean, people will tell you, and David, I remember David Stern telling me this because I think it's critical to have a mentor.
yeah,
All right, critical.
yeah,
I actually had David as a mentor after I left the NBA.
yeah.
And I had David mentor me on how to step away,
Oh, okay.
how to retire. And you know what he told me? He said, the thing that when you step away, you're going to realize who your friends really are. And you're going to know the phone doesn't ring as often as it did before.
Hmm.
And you're going to realize that some of the people you thought were your friends were really your friends because of what they thought that you could do for them. And so he just said, and he also told me the best thing. He goes, you don't step away until you know you're ready to step away. You don't
Okay.
step away because you turn a certain age. You don't step away because of other things. You have to know in your heart you're ready to step away.
Hmm. Great counsel. Great
Yeah,
counsel from David. I mean,
and
he provided a lot of nuggets over the years, that's for
he
sure.
did. And Lou, those sessions I had with David were cookies and milk sessions. That I would bring David the most fantastic cookies from Savannah or somewhere I'd have sent in on Go Belly,
Yeah.
and he and I would sit there and have cookies and milk in his office because he wasn't allowed to have cookies and milk at home.
Oh, right.
And we'd have cookies and milk and we'd talk about these things, and it was an awesome experience. A
Yeah.
lot better than working for him.
You
Never
know,
had cookies and milk when I worked with him.
no, no, that's for sure. But look, David was an amazing, leader. But also, like you said, you found out who your friends are when you are done, right? When you leave, and it's kind of, we've talked about a lot since I've left the team side of the business. We started General Sports. It's kind of the same thing. Like you hear from people who generally are your friends, and those who maybe were casual acquaintances because you're no longer, I don't have access to Mets tickets or Pirates tickets or Hawks tickets.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, you don't hear from them anymore, and it's like, okay, I know who the real friends are and who value our relationships, and you just called to say hello.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
and one of the keys to networking, Lou, is to call somebody to talk to them when you don't need anything and when you don't want anything.
Correct.
Where it's a genuine call, checking in on someone, asking them how they are,
Yeah.
and it doesn't happen enough.
No, no, unfortunately it doesn't. But granted, I think we're all probably guilty of that. For me, hey, maybe a quick text message here and there, I think suffices, but it is nice to get a phone call from somebody every now and then, just out of the blue. You know,
Yeah,
doesn't have to be long, don't have to be on the phone for hours. It could be a quick 10
no,
minutes. Hey, how you doing? How's everything going? And quickly get through it. So that's great counsel. And looking, going back to the culture, and it's funny, we're gonna meld David Stern and culture together here for a second. When we were in Tebow, I had an opportunity, to go work for one of the clubs, and David grabbed me at the 11th hour and said, "Are you sure you really want to go work there? Like, that's not the type of culture for you. Like, you are a nice guy and you are a good leader. I don't think that's going to be appreciated where you're going or where you might be going." And he basically talked me, not that I was probably 75% of the way there on the job, but he just said, I don't think that's the right fit for you. And like, hold out for something better. Don't rush into something like this
mm-hmm.
because it's a big job and all of that. I said, you know
Yeah,
what? He's 100% right.
yeah,
So he gave great counsel that I wound up obviously going to Atlanta with Bernie, and can never go wrong working with Bernie, right?
no, never.
You know, it was a lesson every day.
So that's why I said, you work for good people, your life's good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So what other advice do you have to people looking to get into the industry?
You know, I think the simplest way to say it is, these kids are, been in college and there's a little bit of pressure from home. What are you going to
Mhm.
do? well, where are you going to work? What are you going to do? What's your career going to be? And I always stop and I say, whoa. I said, a career if you're entering the career market in 2025, you're probably not going to have one career.
Right.
You're probably going to have three careers
Mm-hmm.
or four careers or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to work in something that doesn't even exist right now.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
I remember we wrote the first edition of the sport marketing book, and by the time the second edition came out, the internet had occurred.
Right.
And by the time the third edition came out, social media had occurred.
uh,
So look at
yeah.
all the jobs now that are internet or social media based
Yeah.
that were not there for my students in the early 90s, but they're working in it now.
Yeah.
You just got to be what it is. So what I tell people is make it easy on yourself. Figure out what it is you want to do first. That's all. First.
Yep.
You want to work at college athletics, you want to work at pro sports, you want to be a coach, whatever it is you think you want to do it. Do the one that's the most passionate, the one that you're dragging. Do the first thing.
Yep.
And if you're wrong, you're 23 or 24.
Yeah.
I say it's fine to be wrong at 23, 24, even 27, 28.
Yeah.
You don't want to be wrong at 43 or 44. When you've got all family obligations and you've got debt, you've got everything else.
Yeah.
That's when you don't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
You can be wrong coming out of school. I mean, and I tell the story all the time. I come out of school, I'm a political science major, and I'm looking for jobs in government, and I'm interviewing everywhere. And this was the day, Lou. These were the days, this is the early 70s,
Yep.
where they would ask you for your transcript.
Oh, okay.
And so when you show them your transcript, they say, well, like I was applying for a job at the YMCA or somewhere. I forget, some rec facility.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, can I see your transcript? And I did. I showed him, and he goes, well, you're a political scientist. And I said, hey, I'm glad you think I am. Nobody else seems to think I am. So, I kind of had to go redefine myself.
Yeah.
I mean, my first job out of college was selling sporting goods at Joseph Horns in downtown Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm selling skis. I never skied in my life. I'm selling fishing rods. I don't fish.
Right.
I'm selling tennis rackets. I don't play tennis. So, but you're learning all these things. And then I get a job as a counselor in a group home.
Mm-hmm.
But while I'm in the group home, I start a basketball team and I start a softball team and I start an athletic league and I start doing all these things. And I kind of start moving over to the sports side. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So my next job after that is as a youth director in the Methodist Church in Stillwater, Oklahoma, because I want to use that job to get me to get back to Stillwater so I go to grad school. Well, you know me, I'm Catholic. They know I'm Catholic. They hire me anyhow. Okay. They go to introduce me on Easter Sunday in the Methodist Church, and guess what? I'm across the street at St. Francis.
Oh.
So Louis, we have a really literal come to Jesus meeting that Monday. And they say, hey, you know what? You're doing a great job. We really like you and everything, but we think it's time that you convert. And I just go, I got to be honest with you. I'm not even very good on my team. I don't know why you want me on your team. It's okay if that's the case. And we're going to, we're not going to fire you, but we're going to give you a couple months to find another landing spot. So my landing spot was the Federal Correctional Institute. Because, yeah. Lou, remember I said you never take a job for money or title?
Yep.
Here's why I took this job.
Yeah.
Here was the recruiting pitch. It's a hazardous job, and I let that part go.
Yep.
Hazardous job. So you can retire in 20 years at full pay. That's what I heard.
Yep.
The hazardous part went right out the window. You can retire. I'm 27 years old, and I'm thinking, 47 years old, I can retire at full pay.
Sure.
Well, I don't know how much money it's going to be, but it sure sounds good, right?
Yep.
So I take the job, and the second day I go home, tell Sharon, I go, boy, did I make a mistake.
Yeah.
And, I was only there for 3 months.
Okay.
Because thankfully, a guy I met when I was at the church was the YMCA director. And he liked what I did at the church. He hired me at the Y. So I started as a program director at the Y and grad school the same day. And you know what I learned at the Y in the 4 years I was there? I learned how to sell. I learned how to market. I learned how to promote. And that became the basis of the rest of my life.
Yeah. Incredible. I mean, look, I mean, you know, great transition, right? I mean, a lot of different, steps along the way, but you found your path and it got you to
Yep.
where, okay, the YMCA, the right spot, and it just
Yeah.
grad school and everything took off from there.
So I'm liking the Y. I'm there, I'm program director. I get promoted to associate exec, and I had done my master's. I decided to do a doctoral degree, and I was doing it for me. I had no idea what I was going to do with it, but I thought, yeah, I'm in here. Why don't I do this?
Yep.
One day, one of the professors said, "Hey, have you ever thought about teaching?" And I go, "Nope." And she goes, "I think you should think about it. I think you'd be really good at it." So there was the curveball. There was another curveball.
Yeah.
I was fine at the Y. I was loving life. But then I went to Robert Morris.
Yeah.
And I taught, and my philosophy at Robert Morris was, I taught for 4 years at Robert Morris and taught for 4 years at Ohio State. After 8 years, I looked in the mirror one day. I said, "You know what you're talking about? You're telling these kids all the things they should do to find a job, to work in the industry, and you've never done it."
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to I went and saw Buffy.
Yeah.
Buffy got me a job at Del Wilburn Associates,
Yep.
a sport marketing company in St. Louis. So I moved in. I did that for 3 years, established my credentials, and went back into teaching after that.
So you went from there to
But
UMass?
there to UMass to the NBA,
Yep.
NBA to UCF, USF. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I think that's a great example of how people's careers just aren't linear. Like you're not going to
They're
just get
not.
in and it's going to go like this. You're going to go all over the place, and you just have to be flexible enough to understand that and accept what's in front of you and figure out, okay, how do I get to where I'm going to get to? And sometimes you don't know what's going to hit
No.
you. Like you said, you got a couple curveballs, but you know what? You hit them. You did a good job. And you say, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. I'm going to go that way. That's what people have to understand is, when an opportunity presents itself, sometimes you got to take it and say, you know what? This might be the best bet for me long term. And you learned by, 20 years in full benefits or full salary in 20 years. That does sound
And
good. That's quite a
and
pitch.
yeah, that's quite a pitch. But you know what, Lou? Every curveball I got came because I was good at whatever I was doing.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yep.
And so what I would tell people is find out what you're good at and be great at it.
Yeah.
And then, the other advice I've been giving people lately too is I tell them, I said, be like Stetson Bennett. Who's Stetson Bennett? Stetson Bennett was the quarterback at Georgia, won 2 national championships after he was told he'd never play, after he was 4th string,
Right.
and he stayed and he bet on himself.
Mm-hmm.
So bet on yourself. Be confident enough in who you are and what you're capable of doing to bet on yourself.
Yeah.
So the story about how I ended up at the NBA. I get a cold call one day from Linda Tossi. Said, "Will you hold for David Stern?" My response is, "Yeah, right." Like, and he's on the phone and he says, "Yeah, right. That's how you answer your phone. What the hell's the matter with you?" And I knew immediately it was him.
Yep.
So, he's asking me questions about something I'd given him and about somebody applying for a job that I was listed, and he knew that he could ask me questions because he'd just seen my report.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, he ends and says, "Anything I can do for you, let me know." So I'm on an airplane a month later. And my goal at the time was I was going to do a sabbatical teaching sport marketing in Florence, Italy.
Oh, nice.
That was my goal. That was my sabbatical. And then it fell through.
Okay.
So now I'm looking for something to do on my sabbatical. So I write David a letter. So listen, I've got a sabbatical coming up from UMass. I'd love to come and work for you. By the way, here are some things I think are wrong with the NBA that I think I could help you fix.
Yep.
All right. Now, you want to talk about betting on yourself?
Yeah.
I'm telling David Stern what I think is wrong with the NBA in a letter. So I end the letter with, and I always tell people this when you send a letter, always end it saying what the next steps are.
Mm-hmm.
If you say, "Hope to hear from you soon," that's like ending your letter to Santa Claus, "Please bring me a red bike."
Right.
Okay. It's the same thing. He might answer, he might not. So I told David in the letter that if I don't hear, I said, I know you've got the NBA finals and the draft coming up. So if I don't hear from you by July 15th, I'll call you. So I'm in Colorado at the MLB All-Star game doing market research.
Yep.
And I call Sharon every night. And it's around July 13th or something. And I call Sharon. She goes, guess who called to me? I go, who? She goes, David Stern. I go, really? I said, what do you want? And she goes, he wanted to know if I thought you had a sense of humor. And I said, what'd you say? He says, yeah. I said, it's one of the reasons I married you. You got a good sense of humor. And he said, that's good because I have a good sense of humor too. And so I would like to talk to him. So tell him to call me. So I called and ended up flying up there the next week.
Okay.
So I'm in David Stern's office waiting to meet David Stern face to face for the first time.
Yep.
And he walks in his conference room, and you've been there.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks at me, and with that real sarcastic voice, he says, hello, Professor. And I go, hello, Commissioner Stern. He goes, I really only got one question to ask you. I said, okay, what is it? He goes, what's my job? And Lou, I'm really good at thinking on my feet.
Yep.
But I got nothing.
It's a good question by David. Yeah.
I got nothing. I mean, seriously, I got nothing. And so I start hem-hawing around. He goes, you don't know, do you? And I said, well, obviously you're commissioner of the NBA. And he looks at me and he goes, obviously. He goes, I'm an investment banker. I've got 30 clients. My job is to increase the value of their investments. Do you understand that, Professor? I said, Crystal.
Yep.
And that's exactly what I said. I said, Crystal. And he goes, and then we start talking. And then he says, okay, let's try this. He goes, when do you want to start? And I said, how about the day after Labor Day? He goes, how about 2 weeks from Monday? I go, this is July. I go, okay. And then he goes, how long do you want to do it? I said, till the end of December. He goes, nope, till the end of the NBA season, after the playoffs. And I go, okay. And then he goes, how much do you want? Which I never thought I was going to get the answer to that question.
Right.
And I said, by that time, I just said, why don't you just tell me?
Yeah. Smart man.
So he gave me $2,500 a month and an apartment.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how I got to New York.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. And,
I mean, what
and
a great opportunity.
then we ended up starting Tebow.
Yeah. I mean, that was, your concept, to David, to then putting it in practice, bringing Bernie and then myself, and then you joined the team and Scotty and just,
it was great.
It's,
but I mean, again, Lou, everything I did up to that point, I had credibility because I was consulting with teams.
Yep.
I had the Cavs. The Cavs were supporting my application, and the Pacers were supporting my application. I had people. I had credibility in the industry.
Yeah.
But I had work to do those things. So again, if you work to set up your expertise, sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes something will find you.
Yep.
And you know that as well as anybody.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
great.
the best job you get is the one you weren't looking for.
Yeah. Just something comes out and hits you, and you're like, oh, okay, that sounds like a good one. Like, let's go for it.
Yeah.
So which is exciting. Look, again, that's more proof that people's careers aren't linear. You got to be good at what you do, though. Like you said, if you're going to be good at something, or if you're passionate about something, be great at it, and then just be open. Be open for opportunities. And when David Stern calls, you return the call, right? I mean,
yeah.
As we all
how about our story? Buffy has me go interview to be the chief business officer of the Pirates.
Yep.
And I love the Pirates.
I know.
My hometown team.
Yep.
And so I go and I interview with Frank. I interview for a day, and I'm interviewing the second day. I go in. I walk across the Clementi Bridge to go into town to have lunch. It's February in Pittsburgh. Not a great time.
No.
And I come back to Frank and I say, Frank, I said, I don't want this job. I want to withdraw. But I want you to hire me as a consultant because I'm going to give you the exact best person to do this job. And I convinced Frank that he should do that.
Yeah.
And I gave him you.
Yep. Which I am eternally grateful for, which was
But,
great.
but I gave him you because I knew you. You and I worked together for years and worked on different projects together. I knew your skill set. And after 2 days of interviewing, I knew exactly what he was looking for.
Yeah.
So I said, I can do this. I said, you don't have to pay a search fee or anything.
Right.
I said, I'll get you. I said, I get the perfect guy for you. And I said, just hire me as a consultant.
Yeah.
Knowing that by hiring you, I was going to put myself out of the consulting job. But that's fine too.
Right. Yeah. No,
I mean, that's what a good consultant is. A good consultant finds a way to eliminate their role.
Yeah, that's exactly
But
right.
not a lot of people approach it that way.
No.
If you're a great consultant and you do a good job, you fix whatever they brought you there to fix.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And look, and I've seen you do that for years because you were a consultant for us at the Pirates when I got there in the Mets, and just working together with you. And then now when we consult, or I do a lot of consulting work here with General Sports Worldwide, I say the same thing to the clients. Like, eventually, if I do my job right, you shouldn't have to keep me on retainer. Like, we'll come in, we'll fix it, we'll give you the playbook. It's your job to execute, and hopefully, you're good to go from here. Like, a good consultant should set you up to be successul, not be trying to drain you for 20 years with a retainer by not giving you all the answers quite yet.
Yeah.
So it's been amazing. And look, those were I spent almost 5 years there in Pittsburgh with the Pirates, and it was great. And it was good because you were a season ticket holder. So
that's right. I'm still a season ticket holder.
I still are. And we got a chance to see each other and watch baseball together and enjoy Pittsburgh. Yeah. And you took me all the great local eateries, which was really fantastic. So, but that's good. So hopefully for those watching, this podcast or listening to it, you can get an idea of what it takes to kind of be successful in this business. We've just listened to Bill walk you through his own career path, the advice he's given the students. So again, there's no linear way to do things in this business, but just always be open for opportunities, put yourself in a position to be successful, build relationships, like meaningful relationships in this business, because that's how you get credibility, and then you get other opportunities. And Bill, any other final closing thoughts?
I can't remember who said it, but it was either Tim Lywicki or Jerry Jones.
Okay.
They said, be comfortable with ambiguity.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to know. You're just not going to know until you're there.
Right.
And so, I tell people all the time, don't be afraid is how I do it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Well, you're always going to be afraid of something new, and it's okay.
Sure.
But don't let that fear prevent you from taking a chance or betting on yourself or pursuing something. I can't think of a time, Lou, when I wasn't driving across country or commuting in that first day of the office, wondering if this was going to work out, if I was going to be any good at this. You're always going to have that. Yep. You're always going to have that. But you can't let that control you to the point where you don't do it because I don't know if I'd be any good at it or not. Hell, did I think I was going to be any good at being good at working for David Stern? I was cocky enough to think I was, but I got to guarantee you, after the first couple meetings, you got to question whether you know your stuff or not. But, you find out you can do it. Yeah.
That's great. That's great counsel. And again, Bill, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast with us. This has been really helpful. Thanks for joining. I love talking. We could go on for hours, and I know sometimes we do on our own, but just as a wrap, thanks again to Dr. Bill Sutton for joining us on the episode of the Sports Business Playbook presented by General Sports Worldwide. And we hope you enjoyed the podcast and listen and watch future ones. So I appreciate it. And we're signing off.